I'll join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put the palms down. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you all doing today?
Good.
Good. Warming up, sitting closer together. It's good. As I said last week, I just turned the heat on, so it should kick in any moment. If you're here for the first time and you come back next week, you'll eventually realize we don't have heat, but if you're sitting there waiting for it, you're going to continuously be disappointed. So, yeah, it's difficult times, I think, for people. Do y'all have things you do that you enjoy?
Yeah.
That's super important. Super important. Not just, in these difficult, challenging times, because as much as we'd like to think they will, these difficult, challenging times are really never going to go away. They're just going to change. There may be greater levels of difficulty or degrees of difficulty in some days or some years, and sometimes, less degrees of difficulty, but there's always going to be challenges. Interesting how we always pick moments in time or events or things to kind of funnel all of our blame on. Were any of you challenged 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years? So the challenges are always going to be there. Things just happen for us to put our attention to and say, well, if this weren't this way, then everything would be great. Well, there was a time that it wasn't that way and not everything was great. So the sooner we kind of drop the story about the things around us that we think are causing all of our difficulties and challenges and conflict, then the sooner we get back to the real source of our conflict and challenges, which is what? Ourselves. Thanks for not saying you today. Usually somebody says you, and then I think I'm the source of all your problems. So I like to think of my role as just helping you identify the source of your own problems, challenges, difficulties. And then also from that place, recognizing where are the challenges and difficulties that do exist around us. Definitely not taking away from the state of the world that we're in, or a pandemic, or anything else for that matter. That's all there. That's all real. We're facing all of that. But we still wake up ourselves in our own mind and our own hearts every day. So that's always where it starts. And for me, that's why I kind of threw the question out there of, do you have things you do that you enjoy? And find those things, do them every single day. That's what's important. And what got me started on this, I made a comment. I was walking into somebody or two people, and I said that I was talking about the standard that I hold myself to and the accountability that I hold myself to with a space like this. And what I'm really getting at there is that there's nothing I would rather do than this. Like, this is my fun. As crazy as that sounds, I enjoy sitting with greedy, angry, ignorant people every single day and helping them understand what's going on there. To me, there's truly nothing in life I'd rather be doing than this space and this practice. So it never gets to a point where I ever want to stop. You just keep going, and then one day you die. That's it. So whatever you're doing in life, if you're just going to keep going, make sure there's a lot of things in there that you enjoy, because then you will die. That's the harsh reality. The Buddha taught birth, aging, sickness, and death. Sounds depressing, doesn't it? But that's what we're all guaranteed. Once we're born, we will age, we will get sick, and we will pass. So in the middle of all of that, learn to enjoy the journey and try not to get too wrapped up in all the negative, because this is just not a fun way to live. And I know, because I spent most of my life there, and that wasn't fun at all. So yeah, find things you enjoy, and then you live every day just like you're on vacation. That's all. Every day is like being at Disneyland or wherever your happiest place on earth is. So all right, so with that, we'll go ahead and we'll start a meditation practice. For those who are joining virtually, welcome. Thanks for being here. Feel free to say hello, introduce yourself. There's a chat box somewhere on the screen. And when we get to questions, you can respond there as well. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. You're not going to figure anything out whatsoever. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And so this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are in a cushion, often helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, slightly allows the back to straighten. If you're on a chair or bench, however you're seated, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees, in the lap, whatever's comfortable for you. If you need to move, simply move. I'll say things periodically to either wake you up because you've fallen asleep, or just remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to the present moment. Most important, do not expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed, whatever's comfortable. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus, to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice. Just sitting, breathing. keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, resting, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. Once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, it's not from anything I said, not from how we sit and hold the hands across the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada. It means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means, very simply, for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens. more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you're feeling and sitting and experiencing right now is not what you experience all day long. And the question you have to ask yourselves is, why not? You're with you all day. After meditation, people tend to be okay. Now, if you feel miserable and worse right now, then this is a bad example. But nobody's yelling at anyone else. Nobody seems to be angry at anyone else right now. Give it 5 minutes, that'll come back. But the reality is, at this moment, things are okay. So why is it we have to get up, get out of the house, go somewhere, come into a cold place, sit down, get quiet, sit with a bunch of people, hit a bell, look up at all this stuff? Why does all that have to happen for you to feel okay? That's the insane part to me. You carry with you every moment of your life the ability to be peaceful and calm and quiet and happy. And yet, very rarely do we actually tap into and access that throughout our day, because we allow everything around us to control us. We allow ourselves to be completely influenced and dragged around by everything around us and everyone around us. All the people, all the media, all the whatever. It's almost like, imagine a dog on a leash. And you're holding on to that leash, and dog's running this way, you're trying to pull the dog back. Dog's running that way, you're trying to pull the dog back. Well, that's us being dragged around all day long by everything out there. This practice, as I always say, is not the escape. It's direct perception into the present moment. And that present moment is often very difficult. So can we learn to settle into a sense of quiet and calm, as you are now, in everything else? Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. And that's it. But for this practice to actually impact your lives, it has to become a part of your life, outside of, just here. And that's the difficult part. And as I alluded to earlier, we spend so much time trying to fix, control, manipulate everything and around us outside there. And this practice is learning to gain control of your mind, your thoughts, your reactions to everything out there. And once you do that, your life will drastically change, and it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing. You just feel at ease. You feel comfort. You feel okay. So with that, I'll pause and just open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice. For me, I really always prefer to respond to what's on your mind. And again, for those joining virtually, welcome. There's a chat box somewhere on your screen. Feel free to chime in with questions or thoughts. So we'll open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice. I hadn't even finished. The hand's already up. It's been in your mind since Wednesday, or? All right, go for it. Hi.
So I have an accountability partner, somebody here that we check in and say we meditated today.
Nice.
And that's really been helpful, especially with everything going on around the holidays.
Yeah.
I noticed that what I was noticing is that if I need to buy something, I put it on the list. If I have a chore to do, I put it on the list. The things that show up in my meditation are conflicts or things from the past and future that I haven't resolved. So I'm wondering from a Buddhist perspective, I know when I first came here, I was in a lot of angst about something. Until I sat down and journaled about it, did I realize what was really going on for me underneath. So what I'm trying to say is the things that come up are unresolved emotional things that I find come into my meditation. And I'm getting better at becoming more present, but that doesn't resolve that. So what's your take on that?
Resolve it.
I mean, what happened? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. You waited all this time to ask that question for that answer, you know?
In terms of a Buddhist like journaling, or is there a tool that you
To resolve it?
people who teach this stuff would say?
Yeah. You'd have to ask the people who teach the stuff. No, I'm just messing with you. So let me just to clarify. So are you asking a tool to resolve the problems in your life?
Well, I'm from a Buddhist perspective, one way would be therapy, obviously, another thing's talking it out. I found journaling on that one thing. I realized that it was really, I was disappointed in myself and not the other people, and then I knew what I needed to do. Just how to see it from a Buddhist perspective. Yes, resolve it. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Greed, anger, ignorance
Yeah.
is the cause of all of our suffering.
Right.
So when you have a conflict in your life, whether you journal about it, whether you talk about it, whether you see it and try to see the truth of it, just, reflection quietly, however you choose to do it, the outlet is in essence irrelevant. What matters is whether you're journaling, whether you're speaking about it, whether you're reflecting on it yourself, or whatever other, whether you're throwing it up on a, brick wall, whatever tool you're using to explore the situation, the tool isn't what resolves it. What resolves it is your ability or inability to genuinely, authentically, honestly look at whatever that is that you want to resolve, right? And to see it and ask yourself, where's my greed? Where's my anger? Where's my ignorance? Now, very often, just as an example, when we have an issue going on that we want to, say, resolve or express, we call a friend, we gripe and moan and complain. Nothing is solved. But sometimes we feel better because they just shut up and listen to us complain. Meanwhile, they're sitting there thinking, okay, are they done yet? No offense to your listener. I know, right? And he lovingly listens to you anyways, right? But the reality is, at that moment, that expression in a journal to a loved one, to whoever it is, makes us feel better because we just dumped it on somebody. But that didn't resolve it. It just allowed us to get rid of it for a moment. And then 24 hours later, you're like, oh, there it is again. Well, maybe I'll journal about it today. And then you journal about it. And then 24 hours later, well, maybe I'll just reflect on it quietly. But that doesn't resolve it. What resolves it is looking at the situation and addressing your attachment, your craving, your desire, your greed, your anger, your ignorance in that situation. That's the only way you're going to resolve anything. And then moving on.
That's what I needed to hear.
Yeah. I figured if I talk long enough, I'd get there. Yeah. Good question. Other thoughts, questions? There's a, let me read this for a second. Yeah, so Lisa here, I'll read this, Lisa, with everybody. And Lisa's been around the Sangha for many years, was here actually a few weeks ago, on and off over the last few years, as many people. But so what she wrote is, Lisa wrote, "My first holiday season without my beloved husband, Jeff. I contemplate the 5 remembrances and my blessings. Life is a gift, even the tough days, and the gratitude is an essential practice." And as Lisa, I've shared with you personally, and whether it's here via email or whatnot, our love and support for you during these difficult times. And I saw something that somebody posted the other day, that the holidays, as we all know, can be a wonderful, beautiful time for many, and for many, it's first holiday without someone, or it's maybe we're going into a holiday where we think it's our last holiday with someone, or whatever, trauma from childhood or adulthood, or breakups, or whatever might be occurring during this holiday season. They tend to be incredibly amplified, um, just because of the nature of this whole season. And I think what you share about just finding gratitude is really super important. I talked about that last week, but being grateful for all the moments we've had with anybody in our lives. Even you meet somebody for a week, and you have an incredible experience for a week, and as a friend or whatever it might be, and you're grateful for that experience. You have an interaction with somebody, paying for your coffee, and you think they're just a kind person, and you have gratitude for that moment. Or you have someone that's been in your life for 50 years, and you have gratitude for that experience. So I think during all these times, if we can fall into gratitude more often than not, uh, it makes life a little more pleasant and very often bearable. So thanks, Lisa. Yeah, I see a hand in the back. There's a glare, so I don't see who's attached to the hand. I just see a hand.
Yeah. So, you say, for example, a lot of times you can get upset or angry about things around you. Say, for example, I'm driving and I see someone else do something really silly on the road, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I can't exactly meditate while I'm driving.
Correct.
How would I, be able to calm myself down in a this way to get me to think,
Yeah.
I don't have anger about the issue, for example. I'm still very, busy and focused on the road.
Sure. So the question, just for those who maybe didn't hear it, or virtual, the question is around, I mentioned, people around us, and when we get angry, we're triggered. So the example you gave is when you're driving, somebody doesn't do something they're supposed to, you can't exactly meditate while you're driving. So what are you supposed to do in that moment? Yeah. What's your name?
Harry.
Say again?
Harry is Harry Potter.
Harry, as in Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah. So brilliant. I didn't get into it until way late. Remind me, if you're lucky, I'll tell you the story where the wand chose me at Disneyland one day. It's great. Harry, have you ever, and please don't be offended by this, done anything on the road that you shouldn't have done as a driver?
Yes.
Yes. For the record, well, I appreciate you being honest. If you'd said no, I wouldn't have believed you anyways. Yes. So is it quite possible that people on the road don't always do what they're supposed to do? Yeah? Okay. Do you know anything about these people, where they're going, what they're going through, what happened to them that day, what loved one they lost, what hospital they're headed to? Anything about them? Most of the time, you don't even see them. You just see like a yellow car. And all of a sudden, you have anger and rage towards a yellow car because it, God forbid, got in your lane. You should hate yellow cars forever. The question I understand, which is, okay, as you said, You can't meditate while you're driving. One, and I actually misspoke too soon. Yes, you can. The first thing I would suggest you understand is that meditation is not just sitting on a cushion or a chair or a bench with your eyes closed and breathing. As the Buddha taught, meditation is sitting, standing, walking, lying down. It is everything you're doing. It is a concentration and focus on the present moment. In fact, driving is an incredible form of meditation because you have to concentrate and focus on the present moment or you're going to hurt people, right? Now, in that moment of that person doing what you have labeled and judged them as terrible, miserable people for cutting you off, one, use driving as a form of meditation. You see the car they cut in front of you, maybe just slow down and recognize that they don't know you, they don't care about you, they have nothing to do with you. So why are you going to give them the power of ruining the next 30 minutes of your day? Try just slowing down and letting them go. And then coming back to your driving. Just drive. When you're driving, just drive. If somebody cuts you off on the road, so what? You don't know anything about them. Right? The reason I asked you first if you have ever done anything that you shouldn't have driving is that very often, and this is the driving I often use as metaphors because I swear I could write a whole book on Buddhism around driving, where we often think that what everybody else is doing is about us. They don't know you. They don't care about you. They've never seen you. They're going on their day. And yet some yellow car just ruined 30 minutes of your life. And then when you get to where you're going, then you're going to complain to somebody about it. You know? And then you're going to carry it with you. And then you're going to show up here on a Saturday morning, Mr. Harry, and ask the question. Right? Man, that one person that cut you off has been following you around for a long time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is life. That person that harmed you 7 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, doesn't make it right. You know, doesn't mean what they're doing is right or safe or following the law. It's not about justifying what they're doing as being okay. It's recognizing that you have now given them absolute control over your emotions. And we do that all day long with people. We allow people to have that impact on us. So when driving, just drive. Stay in your lane. Slow down. I mean, I'm sure you follow the speed limit, so I'm not worried about that. I'm sure you use your turn signal every single time you change lanes, so I'm not worried about that. I'm sure you have both hands on the wheel, so I'm not worried about that. You know? In fact, I know that everybody who comes to a Buddhist temple definitely is phenomenal drivers. No worries about any of you. You know? So I hope that helps. Yeah.
You often will recommend to us, don't judge your practice.
Yeah.
I almost always judge your practice. And I'm not judging myself about it, but like at the end of the sitting, I'll just say, oh, that was a nice, quiet, calm sitting. Or, God, there was a lot of busy mind. Or,
Sure.
maybe next time I'll count breaths or whatever. What's wrong with doing that?
So the question, just to repeat it, is how I often say don't judge your practice about meditation. And then you said after meditation, you always judge it. And then you gave the example of sometimes you'll recognize that was a nice, quiet, calm sitting, or sometimes it was, not so great. And then you asked me what's wrong with that. And the way you just described it was very different than what I would consider judging. You reflected, you observed. So there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I just sat for 20 minutes and wow, I feel real calm. I mean, the first thing I say when we're done is recognize how you feel now, right? So I'm asking people to actually reflect on that moment. What I am referring to when I say don't judge your practice is if you had said to me, okay, I had a very calm, quiet meditation and I thought that was wonderful, so I deserve a reward and I'm going to go get an ice cream, then you've put it on a grading scale. Or afterwards, you recognize that was a terrible meditation. My mind's a mess. My back hurts. I didn't like that. So I'm going to punish myself and, force myself to sit again. So I didn't hear you in your example judging. I heard you reflecting and observing. I think those are two very different things. The reason, just to clarify for everybody, that I often or really always will say don't judge your practice is judgment. Just that word, judgment of ourselves and others' judgments of us. I always guess at everything, but it's like 95% of the reason that people show up to places like this, because you've been judging yourselves your whole life, or you've been reflecting and harmed and hurt because of your perceived judgments that others have of you. So we spend our whole life judging ourselves, and if that's not enough, we're worried about how everybody else is judging us, and then we feel devastated and crushed and destroyed, and then we're unhappy, and we end up doing stuff like this to try to find peace and quiet. So the last thing I want is meditation and Buddhist practice to be one more thing that we're like critiquing ourselves. Oh, I'm a good meditator, I'm a bad meditator. I'm a good Buddhist, I'm a bad Buddhist. Just be a human, and observe. The idea of just kind of grading our lives, like on a scale, is what so many people do. And that can be incredibly, I understand the value in certain areas, you're learning, education, you're getting, so I understand there's a place for that in our societies. But I think when it comes to like mental, emotional health and well-being, too many people spend too much time judging and critiquing themselves. To recognize, hey, as I always say, the Suzuki Roshi quote, you're perfect how you are and you could use a little improvement. That takes a recognition of like, hey, I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. But as I'm trying to be a kinder, gentler human, I'm not going to hate myself for all the things I do that are not so kind or gentle. But I'm going to use them as motivation to try to be, more kind and more gentle. So, other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
So is the difference maybe compassion between like judgment and observing and reflecting?
Yeah, I think so. I think your question is the difference, compassion, observing, judging. I think that no matter what I say, my guess is every one of us in this room is going to spend the rest of our lives observing, critiquing, and judging ourselves to some extent, right? I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough. I want to be more of this. I want to be more of that. I want to be less of this. I want to be less of that, right? I mean, the Buddha talked about healthy cravings. And so the craving to awaken, the desire to awaken, the desire to suffer less is a healthy craving, a desire. Without that desire to be a happier, healthier person, there is no motivation to practice, right? So yes, I think if we can apply, really look at the two wings of Buddhist teaching, wisdom and compassion, and I think that it's incredibly wise to be compassionate towards yourself. If you say to yourself, I was really mean this morning. You ever been mean one morning, maybe for like an hour? Okay. Then maybe say to yourself, I was really mean today. And just observe that. But when you do that, say, I was really mean. I don't want to be mean anymore. And I'm not going to hate myself for being mean. I'm going to recognize that I was not being kind and compassionate and gentle. And so what happens is when we're lacking compassion in our actions, and the reason I say, say mean or really angry, the Buddha taught the three causes of suffering, greed, anger, ignorance. The way we overcome anger is through compassion. So if we recognize in the morning that maybe we're just being mean or angry to somebody, we realize we're lacking compassion in that moment towards someone. So then when we reflect on it, it helps to then send compassion to ourselves. That same loving kindness is what we need to not hate ourselves for being mean and angry towards others. Because then you're just like stuck in that vicious cycle. Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, self-compassion is so important. And, as I alluded to, we often have enough judgment and critiques our whole lives of ourselves and from others that, you know, I think we need more kindness and compassion towards ourselves, definitely, for all the harm we've done and mistakes we've made and people we've hurt, all that kind of stuff. It's just endless. So, yeah. What else? We'll do one more question before we close.
It's kind of related. I don't know how to phrase the question. What is depression?
That's
What
it?
is depression?
That's all you got for me?
Yes.
I've known Chuck for so many years. So your question is, what is depression?
Yes.
It's a really terrible feeling.
That's good.
That's Chuck. I've known him for years, and I've also never answered one of his questions. So.
What is wisdom?
I don't know. I mean, so I should just stick with my first answer. It's a miserable feeling. The question of what is depression? I mean, for me, it's a very in Buddhist terms, we look at all of these emotions that arise: dukkha, discomfort, angst, dissatisfaction, caused by greed, anger, ignorance. This depression, anxiety, sadness, fear, worry. These are all just temporary moments and feelings that arise that seem incredibly and overwhelmingly real. But they're not. They're absolute illusions. The challenge is, and again, for somebody who spent, probably 25 to 30 years of my 47 years miserably depressed, that illusion, that feeling of depression, that was absolutely temporary, moment after moment after moment, stayed temporary, moment after moment after moment for like 30 years. So when I say it's temporary and it's an illusion, it doesn't mean it's not there every second. It means that the mind and the heart are fixating on it constantly. And we cannot see through it. We cannot see past it. We cannot see around it. Because we don't have the ability at that time to step outside of that emotion and realize that there's a whole life out there and things to be grateful for, as was mentioned earlier, to be happy about, to enjoy. But we're choosing, no different than really the question about the driving and the meditation. When we feel depressed, we're choosing at that moment to focus on the person that didn't do what we wanted to while we were driving. When we feel depressed, we're choosing to focus on, whether we realize it or not, whether we want to admit to it or not, we're choosing to focus on pain, past, misery. And we choose that over and over and over again, and we get really good at choosing it where it becomes an addiction, habitual patterns and behaviors. So we, seek medication to rewire the brain and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a miserable feeling, and one that in time can be completely gone. Yeah. So don't give up. All right, we'll close on that. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace and free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. So a couple quick announcements before you head out. And I just want to add because I'm guessing there's a very high percentage of people in this room right now that battle with and deal with depression. Some of you, maybe I don't know, maybe you're sitting here for the first time. With the statements I was just making to Chuck and to everybody, really, I'm definitely not trying to minimize the seriousness of depression or any mental health issue or diagnosis that you may have. And when I say it's impermanent, it's an illusion, and it's not real, I'm also not saying that it's not there and drastically impacting your life. So I just want to put my little asterisk blanket statement there for everybody who may be battling that, because it sucks and it's not fun. So thanks all for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple about 15, 16 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks or nuns or gurus or masters. We're not teachers. We're not looking for students. We're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on, different people leading from different Buddhist traditions. A couple things out of the ordinary. We did start 2 weeks ago. Last night was our second night. A new Friday night recovery Dharma program, really beautiful group. We didn't have anything going on Friday nights, and we also had a suggestion a month ago or so to start a different recovery program. So it's, thanks to Bridget and everybody else who's been driving that really the last 2 weeks. So that's every Friday night at 7. Beautiful, just a beautiful group. And to be able to offer that here on a Friday night, again, is really special. Day of silence, first Saturday of every month. And then 2 things. Dharma Bum, it'll be our 17th annual New Year's Eve celebration. So 7 o'clock, we'll gather here, do a potluck downstairs. 9 o'clock, I'll do some form of history and vision of the Dharma Bum Temple. And then 11:30, we gather up here for a silent meditation going into midnight. The whole night is not silent, just the last 20, 30 minutes as we do a meditation. So if you've never gone into a New Year silent and sober, this is your opportunity to do both of them at the same time. You'll make it, I promise. Some people come at 7, just to hang out for a bit, and they're home and in bed by 9 o'clock watching an East Coast New Year's. Some people come at 9. Some people just show up at 11:30 to do a silent sit going into the new year. So it's really kind of a cool way to bring in a new year in silence. And also today at 3 o'clock, one thing we've never really done so well over the years is like lots of kind of social stuff. We have certain programs that have a social component to it, but a lot of it is people showing up here like this, listening to somebody like me yap, and then you scatter, maybe say hellos, and then go off. So we're going to start a new Sangha social group in this calendar year. So we're going to have a meeting today at 3 o'clock for anyone who's interested in being a part of that or helping kind of plan it, come up with some ideas. But my guess is start with once a month, do something like, taking trips to other Buddhist temples, going on hikes, taking picnics to Balboa Park or whatever. It's going to kind of be a collective group that's going to come up with a schedule for the year. And so that'll get people that, want to just connect with people on a more social level as well, and get to know each other in a kind of maybe, deeper way than you often get to here. So, please stick around if you want to help sweep up or clean anything outside or list by the door. If you need anything, let me know. Thanks all.